Hey guys, Tom Shu here, and today I'm going to teach you guys about the Curves tool. The Curves tool is probably the most powerful tool in any editing software. It gives you the ability to adjust your tones and your contrast, as well as color grade. Now in Photoshop, it's even more advanced because it allows you to create multiple curves and use layer masks to selectively apply your adjustments. So let's show you how this is going to work. Today we're going to work with contrast and grading. So we're going to add two curves here. Come down here to this drop down menu and select curves 2 times. On the top one, we're going to call it contrast. To rename something, you just double click and we'll call this grade. So how does contrast work? Well, contrast is the relationship between light and dark. It's that simple. You add brighter brights and darker darks, you've added more contrast. To get rid of these points, you just click and drag them off. Okay. To kill contrast, you'd do the opposite. You'd lower your highlights and raise your shadows, and now you have no contrast. Now that's an extreme example, but you can see that we killed contrast with the reverse S curve. So here's a standard contrast S curve. There's the S. Okay. Now once you've added contrast to your image, look at this as a rough adjustment because your fine tuning is with your opacity. There's zero effect applied, and we bring this up and you can control the amount of contrast you add to your image. So there's the before and there's the after. Okay, it does pop a little bit better. There's also a couple other tricks you could use with this curves tool as far as contrast is concerned. A lot of people are into this faded look now, so let's just add one more. Now if you pin this curve, you come here, here, and here and just create a point. You make it so it can't move at all when you make an adjustment. We're just going to affect the shadow areas. Basically, we're just going to milk the blacks up, and you can see that there's that faded look that a lot of people are offering as this unique style these days. That's how simple that is. You don't need a preset. You don't need anything like that. You can go in and adjust it yourself like that. Then you can control the effect with the opacity slider. So there we go. There they are. It's milked up. It's faded. It's the old look. It's whatever you call it. Let's just delete that. Alright, so now we've got our curve adjustment. Let's talk about color grading. This is pretty powerful stuff to be able to adjust your contrast like that. However, in color, it's even more control. So let's look at this. You can see we have a color wheel here. And the way color works is this. We're going to be working with red, green, and blue. Okay? Red, green, and blue. And the color wheel shows you the primary color you're working with and the opposing color because it's directly across. So your blue, the opposing color is yellow, and green, the opposing color is red, and red, the opposing color is green. So if we go back to this image and we choose our color grade option, you can see in this drop down will give us red, green, and blue. So if we grab this blue, you can see we've got a blue curve here. We're working in the blue channel. And if we push up in the midtones, this is the highlight area, this is the shadow area. See, this is the shadows, this is the highlights, and this is the midtone. So we're going to be working in the midtones. And if we push up, we're going to add blue to the image. And if we pull down, guess what color? We're going to add yellow. So that's how the color works. You add, it's going to add the primary. You subtract or take away, it's going to add the secondary color. So let's get rid of that dot real quick. And let's go to the green channel. Let's try the green. So if we push up, we're going to add green because we're adding the primary color. And if we pull down on the curve, we're going to subtract. And guess what? It's going to get red or a pinkish magenta color. Now, depending on where you're at in the curve and how you adjust it, will determine how much you're going to add to that. Just drag that curve off. And lastly, we'll go to red. We push up, we're going to add our reds or our magentas. And we pull down, you got it. It's going to be green. So that's how color works. So how would you use this to color grade your image? Let's take a peek. So in this image, we notice we have a green background, or kind of a golden green background. And in the front, her skin tones are a little pale. So the way I see this is we need to add some magenta to her face, but in the shadows, we want it to kind of match the overall scene. We want to add it a green. Nothing dramatic, but I'll show you how we get there. So in the highlight area, we're going to add, because this is where the most of her white parts of her face are, making her look so pale, let's add in, let's get rid of that real quick, and we're going to go to the red channel here. We're going to add in some magenta or red. Okay, that's a little bit too much, but again, we're going to control that. And then in the shadow area, we're going to add some green. Now you can see what happens to her hair and all the shadow area. It's green. Now that it's a little bit too much of an effect for me, so we've roughed it in with the curve. Now we'll select it. We'll grab our opacity and we'll slide it off. We'll just add it in until we like the way it looks. And I say I like that. There's before and there's after. That's kind of subtle. Now that has a layer mask, so if you don't want to apply it, say like the eyes, for example, we don't want the whites of our eyes to look green, we can zoom in here. Okay, let's keep zooming in a little bit. Okay, so we can grab this layer mask with our brush tool selected, painting in black. We can remove it from the eyes. Let me slide this down a little bit. Paint it off. And if you ever want to see where you're painting, if you just hit the backslash key, it will give you an overlay. So that looks pretty good. We'll get rid of that. Let's zoom back out. And there we have our color graded image. Our contrast is controlled. And this is advanced controls for doing anything you want to do with contrast and color inside any editing program. So that's it. I want to thank you all for taking time to visit today. Until next time, we'll see you soon.